Welcome, everyone. Let's do a little AV check here. Make sure you can see me and hear me okay. Looks like you can see me okay. You can hear me okay? Type in the chat that you can hear me if my audio is good. And I'm going to move this back just a little bit. Awesome. Hey, Kendall. Hello, Michelle. Latisa. Thank you. I don't know if that looks kind of creepy, my eagle back there above my head. All right. Well, I can't cut the E off. All right, there you go. Be, do, live. So welcome everyone to this live stream. This is all about getting your first paid client. I'm going to give you several different strategies. I'm going to talk about the inner game, which is the most important game of getting a paid client. And I'll take whatever comments and questions that you may have. So first of all, if you are potentially watching this on your phone, you're not going to be able to comment unless you get out of Facebook. If you click the Facebook link, there's going to be, I don't know that I can recreate this. I'll try to do it as quick as I can. There's going to be 3 sets of dots up in the right-hand corner, I believe. And some of those dots are, one set of dots is horizontal, the other set of dots is vertical. And if you're in another application, opening YouTube up inside of that, then you're not going to be able to see it. You're not going to be able to comment unless you click the little dot. So this isn't exactly what it looks like, but those are the dots that I'm talking about. This is not this particular live on YouTube, but if you do want to comment and interact, you're going to have to hit those little dots, and it'll give you an option that says open on desktop or open in Safari or something like that, and that'll get you in your YouTube app. And then once you're in your YouTube app, then you'll be able to communicate and engage as you normally would on YouTube. So this is going to be relevant for anybody that doesn't have a paying client and anybody that wants more paying clients, especially if you're in the earlier phases of your business and you just want more clients, more money, more reach, more impact, really. So the reality is there's a lot of confusion out there, I believe. And I think the confusion in this industry sort of matches the confusion in society at large. We've got a lot of fear. We've got all kinds of attention problems. We've got apps that try to pull us out of our lives and into their platforms constantly. They're investing tons of money to get our attention. We've got so many distractions. And in this industry, it's a microcosm of that, right? So what's happening, I think, is there's a lot of fear. And by this industry, I'm talking about the coaching industry. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of scarcity. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of BS. There's a lot of really good. Also, there's a lot of really good people, really good content. And there is a lot of marketing muscle behind more distractions and more confusion. So what I'm finding when I'm talking to people about why they don't have clients or why they're struggling in their business is that there's so much overwhelm that they don't know what path to take. There's just so much of it. And part of that is our doing, because we're asking to be distracted by all these people and all these opportunities and all these things. And we're signing up for all kinds of webinars and getting on all kinds of lists. And all that's great. I mean, the more options that we have, the more access to really good information, obviously. But it also puts people into an energetic situation that really doesn't serve them to build a business. So I want to try to simplify this as best I can tonight on this call, and hopefully give you some value and give you some tips and strategies to go get more clients. As you come in, feel free to let me know where you are logging in from and ask whatever questions you may have. So Janelle, hello. Diane, Kendall, Michelle, Letisa, hello. Go ahead and type it in the chat. If you're watching this on replay, then type any comments that you have below the video and I'll respond, or someone on my team will respond soon. Excellent. Nilo from Pennsylvania. Feed the Why. I remember that. I don't remember your name, but I remember that. From Utah, Diane, Arkansas, Christine from Iowa, Michelle from Michigan, Kendall, Virginia. Hey, everyone. So you don't need a lot of the things that a lot of you think you need. And when I say a lot of you, I'm talking about people that I've talked to in this industry. You don't need a fancy website. You don't need a bunch of business cards and brochures and materials that you can pass out. You don't need this gigantic list of people. You don't need to have all kinds of crazy success in your background. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have a ton of money. You don't need to have a ton of joint venture partners or affiliate partners. You definitely don't need to be a slick salesperson. I think, in fact, the age of the slick salesperson is dying away, I believe. You don't need to be doing what a lot of people are doing online. You don't even need to be online. But we think that we need to be doing a lot of these things that we see other people doing. So a lot of you see me, for example, online. You might see me on Instagram. You might see me here on YouTube publishing videos every week and doing these live. You might see what we're doing on Facebook. I didn't start out online at all. I had a lot of business before I did anything online. Now, back then, online wasn't an easy option. And I'm actually very thankful for that I didn't have the easy option and temptation to just go online and do all the things that a lot of people are doing. But I spent a lot of time offline. I built my business almost entirely offline. I made hundreds of thousands of dollars before I put up a website and a product. And to this day, I don't sell hardly any coaching programs, meaning one-on-one private coaching packages, online. If you go to our website, you won't find any information about private coaching packages, and there won't be any links for people to purchase private coaching. And the point is, what most people are jumping out to do is actually not the best thing to get clients, not the best thing to build your business. So most of the time, when I ask people why they're struggling to get clients, most of the time, people are not actually failing to get clients. They're not trying. And the distinction is that a lot of people are not on the phone with one-on-one conversations and offering their coaching packages, and a bunch of people keep saying no. Most people haven't even started to promote themselves or haven't done it in the right way or the most appropriate way for themselves. People will just put posts out on Facebook and nobody will respond, and they'll think that that's an effort. And I don't want to sound demeaning in this, because if you've taken shots, then you've taken shots, and I want to celebrate your effort. And I also want to be very real and blunt about what actually works, because if you continue toe dipping in the areas that don't work, all you're going to get is less than favorable results. You just can't succeed by playing in the areas that don't have the possibility to give you much success. And unfortunately, those areas are what we see all around us and what we're oftentimes being told we need to do. But you have to understand, there are phases of a business, just like there are phases of a human life. Just because you know how awesome it is to, let's say, be a teenager and to experience the freedoms of being a teenager and the things that you're now aware of and being able to watch certain movies and eventually being able to drive, you can't take your 3-year-old brother or sister and put them in the driver's seat or start talking to them about teenage conversations. They have not evolved yet to that point where those things that matter to you and what you're doing are relevant to them. And so what's happening is what we see a lot of other people doing are way more evolved than us. And so when we try to follow them, it will never work. And if it does work, it'll be built on very shaky, shallow foundation. So I'm on somewhat of a mission to help people identify what their next steps should be from a foundational place. In other words, what's right for you, not what's right for coaches or what's right for people in the fitness industry, what's right for you. And we have such a fear for a lot of us of even exploring who we are and what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are. We don't want to feel criticized. We don't want to feel stupid. We don't want to feel embarrassed. And so we keep following game plans that are not written for us, and we don't understand why they're not working. They're not working because they're not your game plan. They're somebody else's game plan. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a lot of information to pull from what we watch other people doing or what they're teaching. There are ingredients to pull. But what I've found is that so many people are just trying to follow somebody else's recipe after somebody else's recipe after somebody else's recipe after somebody else's recipe without ever actually building something appropriate to themselves. I mean, this is coaching we're talking about. You are the product. It is ridiculous to try to come up with a way to sell a product, which is you, without having you at the center of it. But what almost everybody is trying to do, or what everybody's searching for, is the easy answer that doesn't involve any effort, doesn't involve any discomfort, doesn't involve having to look inward. So they just want the assembly line approach. And because so many people are searching for the assembly line approach, that's what's on the shelves. People are smart. They sell what people buy. So this is not a vendor problem. This is not any issue with the people that are selling certain programs. It's the fact that we, as humans, in our microwave mentality, that are so focused on or so distracted rather that we can't even focus on something, we just keep feeding into this cycle of quick fix, quick fix, quick fix. And then the quick fixes never last. At best, we can just find a Band-Aid approach that gives us a little bit of a push, but you will never actually have any kind of foundational awareness, any kind of foundational sorry, I was reading a comment, and I probably shouldn't be reading a comment mid-thought. You're not going to have the foundational embodiment to move in your business if all you have is a bunch of Band-Aid approaches and a bunch of rules that you're trying to follow. So that's my mission, but I know it's a tough one because nobody wants to hear it. I can't say nobody wants to hear it. Most people don't want to hear it. They're like, yeah, I get it. Give me the quick fix. And how can we tell what people want to hear is what do they buy? And this is a society issue. We are constantly buying quick fix solutions to medicate our problems. And that causes us to not be foundational. It causes us to not grow roots. We're constantly trying to just Band-Aid at the surface. But if you want to be successful, at some point in time, you have to grow roots. If you don't, you can't win. Now, a lot of people won't make the decision to do the right thing in terms of growing roots until they've already wasted a lot of money and experienced so much failure and pain that they don't have the body to keep going anymore, and they'll just quit. I know a lot of people. I've been in this for 13 years. I know a lot of people that are in that boat. really good people. And they just kept searching for the quick fixes until they just couldn't stand anymore. And I just can't, I can't live with that. So the rest of this video, we're going to talk about what does it actually take to get paying clients. And I'm going to give you as many different strategies as I think is appropriate for different people, but all of it is really up to your individual circumstances. So let me take a look at a few of these comments. Hello, everyone. I'm not going to name all of you that are coming in, but hello, all of you that have said hi. Michelle says, there's so many ways that people are putting themselves out there and it might not be right for me. Bingo. Exactly. Hey, Royce, feed the why. Have you ever worked with corporate HR departments to offer life coaching as a benefit? I personally have not. I know that is a thing out there in the corporate world. I'm interested in exploring it. I think it's very valuable. I don't know if this is something that you do or you want to connect with me and have a discussion, or if you're just asking my opinion on where to go from there. But let me know how I can help and how I can support. Yes, Christine, look at what's in their recipe that's going to work for you and then make it yourself. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that. Yeah, perfect. Diane says I had so much more peace when I start unsubscribing to a bunch of these different things. Now, we also don't want to go to the other end of the spectrum where we decide that we're so overwhelmed that we're just going to, take our ball and go home and then not actually be connected to a lot of the answers that we have. So it is a little bit of a catch-22, but ultimately you have to know yourself in order to know what you need. And most people don't know themselves. So it's very difficult for you to say, I know what will work for me if you don't know you. And that's the work that a lot of people don't want to do because they think it's going to be painful. They think it's going to be unvaluable. Nobody else is talking about that, but you have to know yourself, right? I'm starting to really preach this as much as I possibly can. You have to know the behavior more than the behavior. So when in weight loss, I've got a weight loss group going right now. I talk about you have to understand the eater more than the eating, because who you are as an eater is more valuable and relevant than the rules for eating. Who you are as the product is more valuable and relevant than the rules for selling a product. So you have to put yourself under the microscope, and then you can discern, but you have no power to discern what's right for you and what's not right for you if you don't know you. That's why what I teach when it comes to building a business and getting coaching clients is more about the inner work and the inner knowing. It's really more about the roots of the tree rather than building out, right? We've got to go in and we got to find the value inside of us. And then once we do that, then I'm not going to say it's easy. It's never easy to build a business, but then it's so much more simple. I promise you that. But most people don't want to do this work. So Kendall asks, isn't it important to know your message so that you know your niche, so you have your starting point? Yes. And I would say you can't know your message until you know yourself. But once we know ourselves and we take a look at what we've been through, and then we see the value that we can actually give to people, then the message sometimes shows up. The message a lot of times is found, not figured out. It's found through our exploration of the value that we have according to the lessons that we've learned all along our journey on this planet. And then we go, ooh, that's a really valuable message. But when our head tries to come up with a message that we think people will buy, it's not foundational. It's not going to be rooted. So you're absolutely right. We need that message. And my experience is we got to get that message from underneath instead of to pull it out of our heads. Yeah, Michelle says, go slow quickly. That's one of my philosophies, is go slow quickly. It feels like you're going slow, but you're actually doing a lot more work that's going to be more valuable in the future. So I have a marketing program. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. I'm not going to give you the whole spiel right now, but this marketing program is really about everything that I've just talked about so far. It's about finding out who you are, what's your value, what's your unique set of circumstances, and then let's build a business around you. Let's build the business structure starting with you, instead of trying to figure out which assembly line you're going to put yourself on the belt of, and let's just hope it works out for you. I would rather build, forget the assembly line, I would rather build the structure all around you. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that program. It'll be a year-long program. And I really want to help people get their messages out in a much, much bigger way. If you don't hear the details of this program, and you want to, well, I'll actually, let me just send you I'll put the link in here right now, so that for any of you that aren't going to make it all the way in, you can click on that link and read it for yourself. So let me go back to what I said. Most people actually are not taking the action. It's not that they're taking the action and failing. They're not taking the action, which means that most people are spending most of their time getting ready to get 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 ready to hopefully someday be ready to then get a little bit more ready to be ready to get ready to be ready to get ready, and then maybe one day actually take action. Well, if you follow that cycle, then by the time you are ready to take the action that you started getting ready for back then, that action might not be even relevant anymore, especially in this day of marketing where things go so fast. So if you were starting to get ready to have the confidence to be on video 5 years ago, we're past that, right? You have to be on video. Now you've got to have the body to do other things on video, whether it's live videos or YouTube videos constantly or Facebook lives or whatever. And now I'm not saying, I don't want any of you to think that, okay, your time has passed. I'm just saying that the longer we wait to get ready for the things that we started to get ready for in the past, the better the likelihood is that we've spent too much time and that we're wasting too much time getting ready. See, I believe that you get ready in motion. You don't get ready and then get in motion. Being in motion is what gets you ready. But most people, because of perfectionism, because of fear of visibility, because of procrastination, because of wounds, because of all kinds of reasons, won't take action until they are ready. But they don't know what ready even is. And I can't tell you how many people I've asked that question to. So how will you know when you're actually ready? They don't have an answer. It's just a perpetual story of, I'm not ready. Therefore, I know when I won't be ready, which is always. I don't know when I will be ready because I don't even have a list of standards that are going to tell me when I am ready. And so this industry is beautiful and scary at the same time for the same reason, which is it causes you to confront yourself. If you're willing to confront yourself, if you're willing to find the value in your humanity, rather than think that your value is going to come from your perfection, which is such a ridiculous concept, then you actually have the ability to do some phenomenal work in the world and attract people that really, truly need you to help them change their lives. If you're not willing to do that, then you won't. You're just the best you can do is come up with some kind of product that hopefully people will open their wallets and buy. But you're not going to be able to really, truly transform people unless you're willing to find the value in yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that it's got to be super hard. It just has to require, it requires rather you looking inward and saying, who am I? Because I'm the product. And then who needs this product? And most people just don't do it that way. So you've got to get out of this cycle of getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready to get ready to someday maybe potentially get into motion. Oh, man, I don't want to go any further than that because, I mean, I do. I really do. I want to spend another hour on just that, but I'm not going to. The reality is you've got to however much action you think you should be taking, you probably need to be taking 10 times more of that. And I talk to coaches all the time, ask them what the status of their business is and what they think they need and what, what's holding them back. And most of the time, they're simply not doing anything that could even potentially get a client or bring any money in. They couldn't even potentially grow their business with the activities that they're following. I asked somebody the other day, how often do you think you're actually doing business building activities on a daily basis? And she said, if I'm honest, 10 to 15 minutes a day. She's doing this full time. 10 to 15 minutes a day. And in those 10 to 15 minutes, she's actually not even doing activities that could really bring anybody in, but she's thinking about it all the time. So she's thinking that she's in motion. She's thinking that she's in her business full time. She's not. She's not swinging the bat at all. And if we took a look at the action she was taking, there isn't a single thing that had the potential to bring in the business that she's frustrated at not having. And then she's judging herself. And this is the inner game that almost everybody is going through. And once you get on that path, it's really difficult to get off that path because the mind is a misery creation machine. So we've got to identify what's going to get you out of whatever obstacles are in your way and get you in motion. You might have heard me say this before if you listen to some of my other videos. The most critical, the most valuable asset I had is my willingness to try when I was early on in my business. And I always say I was ignorance on fire. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was doing a lot of it. I made so many mistakes because I wasn't prepared. But because I took action, I learned from the mistakes, and then I was able to shift. I was able to redirect, right? So it's critical that you take action. It's critical. But the unconscious mind will say, I'm not going to take the action until I know the right action to take. Well, then you're done. If you are demanding of yourself that you know the right action to take, stop. I'm not the kind of guy that is like, I don't want to be at least the buzzkill, and I don't want to sound demeaning and demoralizing, but I also want to be the guy that brings the truth based on what I've experienced. That there's nothing positive that can potentially come out of you demanding that you know the right thing to do when by all measures that is literally impossible in every single way, especially in this marketing world. So if your mindset is such that you don't want to fail because you don't want to be embarrassed, because you don't want other people to judge you, or you don't want to judge yourself, so you develop these protection mechanisms called procrastination and perfectionism, that has to be cleaned. If it doesn't, that recipe cannot win. I'm just being honest with you. It cannot win. If you're demanding to know the right thing to do when knowing the right thing to do requires you to see into the future. So you've got to take action. You don't need to know the right thing for a year from now. You need to know the right thing for now. And the right thing is defined by my experience and in my opinion as doing something. Just do something. I don't even care what you do. Do something. Because unless you do something, you can't learn from something. And if you don't learn from something, then you don't know if it's the right thing to do or not. And so many people are staying stuck, waiting for the right path to open itself up before they take action. And that's a devastating way to live. It's exhausting to live demanding that you know the right thing to do. And the bottom line is, if you're waiting to get ready, then you're coming from a place of ego, because you're more concerned about your experience in taking action than you are concerned about their experience when you take action. They being the people that you can help. There are 8 billion people on this planet. There are millions of them that need coaching. And millions know that they need coaching, and they're hiring coaches every day. So don't even consider telling me that people out there, there's nobody that you can find that needs what you have, or that wants what you have, or that has the money to pay for what you have. That's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. There are millions of them out there. Now, I'm not trying to invalidate your experience. So if you've tried certain things and it hasn't worked, here's the only thing we know is that those things haven't worked. That doesn't mean that you suck. It doesn't mean that you're a loser. One of the biggest distinctions between successful people and unsuccessful people is that when successful people try something and it doesn't work, they say, that failed, let me try the next thing. When unsuccessful people try something that doesn't work, they say, that failed, therefore I'm a failure. And that self-criticism of I'm a failure because it failed is devastating. And then they have to respond to that. They have to get over that to get back up again, to even get to the point of being in a situation where they can take another action, but the cycle hasn't changed. So it's just going to be a repetitive cycle. So I know that this is what most coaches are going through. If you're not going through this, hallelujah, praise whoever you want to praise God, praise universe, praise yourself, praise your parents, praise everybody, because you don't have that debilitating cycle that most people have. But we got to get through that. We absolutely have to get through that. And it's the inner game that most people really actually struggle with. It's not the strategic game, yet it's the strategic game that almost everybody is searching for. How do I do this thing? How do I do social media? How do I do webinars? How do I do Facebook Lives? How do I do funnels? How do I do sales? How do I do marketing? The answer to all of those questions is, I don't know until I know who you are. I need to know the product before I can tell you how to market the product. Or would you rather just take my knowledge of slinging mops in malls and tell you how to build your coaching business according to the way that I built my mopping business? That's stupid to think that the way to market one product is the same way to market another product. But what are most people doing? They're just looking for the ways to market without even knowing what the product is. So there are two things. There's an inner game and there's a strategic game. They're both important, by the way. I'm not saying that the strategic game is not important. I'm just saying it's not anywhere near as important as the inner game, and it's nowhere near as important as most people think it is. Right. Michelle says, we like guarantee written on the box. Yep. Good luck with that. Good luck with anything that comes with a guarantee that involves humans. If there is anything that comes with a guarantee that involves humans in terms of the results that you're going to create, then run. That thing's a scam. And if you continue to fall, if we continue to fall for these guaranteed results that are so ridiculously, I mean, it's demeaning. It's like disrespectful to say, oh yeah, I understand how you can build your business when I don't even know you. But we keep falling for it. We keep buying it. So they keep selling it. The shelves are stocked with what the customers buy. If you create a jelly, you know, you're in your lab and you create this organic jelly. I think that might be my car. Hang on a second. I think that might be my car down there. I don't know if you can hear the car alarm. Oh well. So let's say you create this organic jelly that cures cancer. All people need to do is just take 1 spoonful of the jelly and it cures cancer. And you go to the store and you try to explain to them that this cures cancer. And they go, okay, I'll buy, a case of it. And they put it on the shelves and nobody buys it. They're giving it back to you. It doesn't matter that it cures cancer. What matters is nobody's buying it. And if nobody's buying it, they're not going to stock their shelves with it. So one of the reasons that we don't see a lot of the what I think, obviously this is all my own perspective, that we don't see what most people need is because they're not buying it. And so we need to take a look at what our own inner game is. And one of the reasons that we keep buying these quick fix solutions is because we think we're not good enough. We think that we as ourselves are not enough, therefore we need something else. We need somebody else to tell us what to do. We need somebody else to fix us. We need to learn a skill that we don't have. We're constantly being taught, because it's our perception of ourselves inside, that we're not good enough, therefore we need something else. And I call this the addiction to addition. We're addicted to needing something else. We're addicted to us not being enough, therefore I need a quick fix from outside of me. But the problem is when you get that quick fix, that will also prove not to be enough. So then you're just going to need another quick fix and then another quick fix. And you can have a million quick fixes that will always prove not to be enough if the inner work isn't done. So all the reasons that you might be judging that you're not valuable to other people because you're not as good of a speaker as somebody else, or you don't have as good of a message or as good of a website, or all the things that you're probably judging yourself about, the things that you need to change before you get into motion, that's where all your value is. All your value is probably in the areas that you wish weren't true. That's where your value is, if you have the guts to be real. But we tend to think that, I need a shinier package. I need something external. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, that you don't have to do the work. Of course, you got to do the work, like on yourself. You got to constantly do the work. So you can't just drag people into the quicksand. If you're still in the quicksand, you've got to do the work to help people get out of the quicksand. But there are things that are each and every one. Every single one of you has value in your humanity, in the lessons that you've learned in your past, in the things that roll off your tongue so easily that you don't even see the value in it because it's simple to you. Every single one of you has a valuable product in the form of a message or something that could actually become a product that people buy, or coaching program or whatever. Every single one of you has something inside of you that is so ridiculously valuable. You could build a wildly successful business. 6 figures, if that's important to you, multiple 6 figures, if you had the guts. That just came out pretty real. Every single person has value to the world of personal development, to the point where they wouldn't even be able to fathom how valuable it is, because they're looking through their brokenness right now. But almost nobody has the guts to find it. So this is not about you creating something that's not within you. It's about you pulling something out that's already within you. If you have the guts to do it, you can change the world and you can build a business that you can't currently fathom. But most people don't have the guts to do it. So, bingo. Somebody says, should we specialize in one or two areas? Depends on where you are in your business. My default answer for almost everybody in the early phases is yes. And not one or two, one. Build one thing and then build another thing. But what most people are trying to do is build like 15 different houses simultaneously. I'd rather you build a single room, get really good at that room, and then build another one on top of it once you have a solid structure and a solid foundation. A lot of people don't want to do it. One of the reasons they don't want to do it is because of what I just said. They don't have the guts to actually find what's valuable. But once you find that thing that's so valuable, not just for you, but other people, you won't be able to sit on your hands because you know how valuable it is for other people. And it's inside of each and every one of us. Every single one of us has this. But most people don't have the guts to pull it out. And it saddens me. It actually really, really saddens me. The more that we focus on our brokenness up here, the more that we just never even know how valuable we truly are. Not just to ourselves, but to other people. Yes. Kendall, Michelle, those are all really good points. Serge, absolutely. No guts, no glory. So the inner game. Our imperfections are what gives us our value, especially in this society that doesn't trust people anymore. The way you get people's trust and the way you build credibility and authority now is to be human, not to be perfect. So those days of perfection having a value to it, those days are gone. So stop trying to win a game that is already ended and just learn how to be you, truly authentically you, and create the business that's right for you, that's authentic for you. Strategic game. Let's talk about that for a sec. So to get a client, you need a few things, and I'm going to dive into this in a little bit. You need to know what your message is. You need somebody that wants the message, and you need to talk to that person. That's it. You don't need anything else other than those three things, really. And then make some kind of an invitation, make some kind of an offer. So how you get to all of those is where the variables are. And for some of you, it might be best to do a webinar funnel. And for others, you might be best to delete all of your social media accounts and never do anything on social media ever again, because that's not your thing. I'll give you an example. I was going to share this later, but I'll share it with you now. I have a client named Christine, and I just asked her earlier today. I said, basically, what are some of the results you've been getting over the last several months? So several months ago, Christine had a huge realization that there are a lot of things about this industry that she just doesn't resonate with. She doesn't enjoy, she doesn't love. And there are other things that she's really strong in, and she hadn't been giving those things enough attention. So for her, it was actually doing local networking events and going belly to belly with people, actually meeting people. That's where she's in her genius zone. And so a few months ago, she started to do that. And she said she started to go to network events in September. That's 3 months ago. I've done 6 in-person speaking gigs. 3 of them are paid. 3 new coaching clients. And she's working with a leads list now of over 40 names. These are real people that she's connected with. These are not opt-ins that she's gotten on the internet. These are actual, real, warm leads. And, all those people are people that signed up for free coaching sessions. Awesome. 40 people on the phone with free coaching sessions, you're going to get a lot more clients. So the bottom line is, with her, what was authentic is to do the thing that she's actually really good at. And now she doesn't spend as much time online, nowhere near as much time on social media and doing some of the things that used to not work because those weren't authentic to her. It doesn't matter how real and powerful the template was. It didn't fit for her. And so each and every one of you has a system that will work for you, but you won't find it unless you start with the roots. And you absolutely won't find it with all these other Band-Aid approaches. Angry Frank says, does an initial sales consultation mimic a real first session with you? I'm not sure exactly what the real first session is, but I'm actually going to read my consultation guide in a little bit, Frank. So maybe that can help make you happy, Frank. Joking. So I'm going to read through this. And the short answer is it depends. Sometimes we give people full-on coaching calls for some reasons and never even offer them anything. And then other times we give them basically sample coaching sessions and then offer a package. That's the way we do it. And like I said, I'm going to give you exactly. Cool. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that you're very happy. So like I said, I'll share that with you a little bit later. Lance says the roots. The roots is when you go internal, Lance, and figure out what is it that you are good at and who are you and what's the value that you bring to the table from your past, not from your intellect of what it is that you need to sell out there. So I explained it a little bit earlier, but hopefully that kind of catches you up. So it's really about being authentic to yourself and going to the roots. When did I realize I wanted to coach people? So I had an experience in 2005 where I was at a business event and we were supposed to write some 90-day goals down. I wrote the 90-day goals. I started crying. We were supposed to share it with our partner and I couldn't speak. And I had never had that experience where I couldn't speak. And it was because I didn't believe anything that I had written down. And this partner passed me off to one of the life coaches in the room, and he took me outside of the room and we went into this crowded hotel lobby and he walked me through this coaching process and he helped me identify what my biggest emotional blocks were. And in a matter of 15, 20 minutes gave me such a level of neurological release that I almost couldn't comprehend what just happened to me. And I felt like I had released so much baggage. People started asking me what happened to me because I was vibrating differently. And a couple months later, I emailed him and I said, I don't know what you did to me and I don't give a bleep. I don't care if it's legal. Tell me what it was and tell me where to go to get it because everybody wants me to do it to them. And then he told me this was back then. He said, this is NLP and go get certified by this guy. And so I just went and I followed and I learned a lot of these strategies. And it was my deep desire to help people feel like I felt just a few months before that got me into coaching. And then I learned the skills. And then since then, I've learned all kinds of different methodologies, whether it's psychotherapy or, just how the unconscious mind works. And I've put them all in a package that I call Neuro Transformational coaching. It's not just NLP. There are some NLP concepts in it, but there are a bunch of different philosophies and methodologies as well. And Neuro Transformational coaching is when we can change our neurology, not just change our intellect, because our intellect doesn't do anything for us other than steer us in certain directions. But our intellect will never cause us to achieve our goals, at least our big ones. It'll never fight for our dreams. Our intellect will never get us back up off the ground. That's our bodies. That's our neurology. We have to have the body for the success that we want. And to do that, we have to do the neuro healing work. We have to do the neuro transformational work. So we can actually take somebody who's been abused or had a lot of trauma in their life, or they just have dealt with failure over and over and over again. And we can identify actually how that is affecting their body, whether it's creating tension in their body or it's creating a fight or flight response anytime conflict comes up. And we can remove, sometimes completely, this neurological component, this neurological compulsion to act or not act. We can remove it completely. If we can't remove it completely, we can dissolve the power of it to the point where people can now control themselves. So what's happening is a lot of people are intellectually prepared to do the work, but they're not neurologically prepared to do the work. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of coaches know how to market, but they don't market. They don't get out there because they don't have the body for it. They don't have the neurology for it. So that's neurotransformational coaching. And I'm very proud of my course on neurotransformational coaching. I just put it in the link there if any of you want to check that out a little bit more. Yeah, Lance says, this is how I work with PTSD. That's what has to be done with PTSD victims or anybody that's dealing with trauma. You have to heal the trauma. If you don't heal the trauma, then the best you can do is medicate it. You can medicate it with mental things. You can medicate it with physical things like actual medications and medicines and stuff. But if you don't heal the trauma, then you're never going to actually have control over the triggers and over the responses. So what most of us are trying to do is change the responses without changing our bodies. So that's what neurotransformational coaching is, and that's what I experienced. It wasn't called that back then, but I had this transformation in my body that I needed people to feel. And it was that drive that got me in motion more than my intellect was afraid of making mistakes. And whichever we're more committed to, we're going to make decisions accordingly, right? If you're more committed to helping people, you're going to take action. If you're more committed to being safe and not being stupid and not doing the wrong things and not wasting money, you're not going to take action. It's a very simple formula. Whichever one you're more committed to is the one that's going to be at the wheel. So the strategy, the overall strategy of finding clients is actually relatively simple. The details come in when we look at who you are and who your clients are, your target client, or who I call your seeker. Right. Serge says my body is way behind my mind. Almost everybody's is. All right. So let me talk about this for a little bit. Several of you are digging this. So let's just say there are two entities. And it's not this simple, but conceptually to understand it, I'm just going to make it this simple. We have an intellect and we have a body. Our intellect is what drives almost everything because we don't want to be stupid. So our intellect is designed to keep us from making mistakes. And we like feeling smart. Almost all of society's interaction is based on intellect. Because we want to be smart, we make intellectual decisions all the time. We're using our head all the time. And we're preparing all the time. So we think that we need more information. If we're not achieving what we want, we need more information. Our intellect convinces us that we have an information deficit. That's why we continually seek information. In reality, we have a neurological deficit. We don't have the body for it. So if you keep packing the intellect with more information when the intellect is not the problem, I mean, it is the problem, but it doesn't have the solution by solving the deficit of information, which doesn't even exist, then you'll never actually get to the solution, right? You just keep feeding the problem. But our intellect is very convincing. It's talking to us all the time. It's very seductive. It's very powerful. So we're constantly a slave to our intellect, usually. And when we are committed to chasing our intellect, we'll never do the work that actually needs to be done. We are such a complex combination of experiences and memories and thoughts and emotions and values and traumas and everything that we are individually as humans. We are so individualized that there's no way that we can come up with a one-size-fits-all approach for almost anything in life. So in order to give ourselves the freedom that we want, in order to take action in our business, in order to be more open in relationships, in order to release weight, in order to do whatever we want, we have to untie the knots that are tied in our bodies. Otherwise, all we're going to produce is an extension of what our body is prepared for. If all we do is focus on intellect, then what happens is, number one, we're not doing the work that we need to do in our bodies, But number two, the more intellectual collecting we do, the further we get from the solution. And in reality, if we could like have this magical brain vacuum and suck out about 95% of the information that's currently in our head, we would immediately probably be 100 times more productive, because it's all the crap that we have up here that stops us. So the more that we create distance between our intellect and the solution, which is in our body, the more frustrated we get. And so most of you probably have an experience of being really frustrated because you know what to do, but you're not doing it. Yeah, it's because your intellect is fine. Your intellect is prepared, but you're not solving the actual problem. And whatever you call it, whether you call it healing or you call it trauma work or you call it shadow work or you call it neurotransformation, whatever you call it, if you don't have the body for it, you can't succeed. Let me give you an example. The Navy SEALs are known for some of the most rigorous training that any human being goes through. The reason that they train, one of the reasons that they train so rigorously is because when they get into situations of conflict, and we're talking about severe conflict, like in a distant land with people shooting at you, the brain cannot ever actually prepare for that. You can do simulations all you want, but you can never actually be prepared for the real thing. So when a human body gets into the situation of the real thing, it won't use its intellect to respond. It will only use its body. So we don't rise to the level of our intellectual preparation. We fall to the level of our neurological preparation. That's why I'm sure many of you had this experience where maybe you have a speaking gig or you're going to give a speech of some kind and you rehearse it and you know your lines and you know all the things to do. And then you get up and your voice fails you. Your body fails you. You start shivering. You start getting dry mouth. You start barely being able to talk. That's because your brain was prepared and your body failed you. You fell to the preparation of your body, to the capability, the capacity of your body. And more intellect is not going to change that scenario. So what are a lot of people doing with their fear of public speaking? Trying to memorize rules, trying to memorize their talks, trying to learn what the right things are to do. Those are all rules. Those are all intellectual guidelines. Next time they stand on stage, their body will go because their body hasn't changed. So if your body doesn't have the capacity to succeed and you don't change your body, you'll never succeed. You can go on this intellectual search all you want. And it's not that you can't make any progress intellectually, you can, but it's a lot of times just fake progress. It's false. It's not real foundational progress. So this is the work that needs to be done. We need to have neurological shifts in order to produce what it is that we want to produce. Yeah, Serge says you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. That's a great concept. It sounds like it's applied to goal setting and effectiveness, and it's the exact same concept, and I love it. You fall to the level of your foundation, not your intellect. So when you have a shift like that, and then you're highly committed at a neurological level to help people, the fears of your head can't stop you. And the frustrations of technology can't stop you. For any of you that are being stopped right now, it's because your fears and frustrations are more powerful than your commitment to serve. And I don't care how that lands for you. That's the truth. Now, it might not feel good because you really want to help people. No, you don't. I mean, you do, but you don't have the body for it. So crying about it's not going to help. Being angry about it's not going to help. Yelling about it's not going to help. Learning more rules is not going to help. Engaging and strengthening the intellect, which is the problem, is not going to help. The bottom line is this has to shift. So that's the neurotransformational work that we all need to do. Now, let's get into some of these actual strategies. Hopefully this is landing with you guys. Lance, stick around, and I'm going to talk about a few strategies, and then if you still have that same question, then let me know, and we'll deal with it. So when it comes to the coaching industry, I'm going to get into a few strategies to get paying clients, but I want to set a baseline about what business is and what marketing is. So business is really just having a viable product, a valuable product, and people that want the product. That's a business. If you have a valuable product and people that want the product enough to buy the product, then you can have a business. And it's very, very simple states, right? Of course, there's all kinds of things that go into a business, but the core elements are those two things. If either one of those two things are missing, you can't have a business. If you don't have a valuable product, doesn't matter how good your marketing systems are, you don't have a business. And you can have a fantastically valuable product. If you don't have people that want the product, or you can't get in touch with them, you don't have a business. So you need these two components. Marketing is understanding who's wanting your product and getting in front of them. That's it. There are many different ways to do it, but that's really what marketing is letting these people know about your valuable product. So at a very simplistic level, that's what we're talking about here. Now let's apply this to coaching. And by the way, when you're relatively new in your business, in any business, the more complicated you make it, the more likely you won't win, you won't succeed. You're just increasing the difficulty with more complication. So that's why simplicity is so critical. And that's why you can't be seduced by all these things that you're supposed to get good at. What you got to get good at is yourself, right? I don't know when I said it, but I mentioned earlier, for those of you that just joined recently, that most people are addicted to addition. They're addicted to more. I need more before I can go. Frank says, I know you've made a couple comments in there. A client not referred by someone who knows you've helped others pro bono. Yeah, so if somebody knows that you help other people for free, then it can be tough to ask other people to pay. So, authenticity in this world is what makes you a valuable product. In this world of coaching and in this world, authenticity is what makes you a valuable product. And authenticity is about being yourself. That's all it is. There is value in you. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you've been told. You have value. If you choose not to find it, that's your choice. But not a single one of you, none of us can stand on the story that we don't have value. If you're not getting clients, what that means is you haven't tapped into the value. But the value's there. You just haven't tapped into it yet. So in this world of personal development, I'm going to make another blunt statement that might sound almost mean, but if you're not getting paying clients, then you're just simply not trying enough. You're not, and when I say enough, that doesn't mean the amount of effort. It also means you're just not doing the right things. And in this case, I'm using right as what's working or not. So if you're not getting paying clients and you have value, and I'm telling you, you have value. If you have value and people need that value and you don't have paying clients, well, that means you haven't done the work to tap into that value and get it in front of people. People are hiring coaches every day, all the time, constantly. And you have something that they want. As long as you have the guts to be authentic. Now, it doesn't mean you have to share all of your embarrassing stories and tell people things that you don't want anybody to know. That's not authenticity. Authenticity is just being genuine. And the biggest hurdle with our authenticity fears is our own belief system. It's because we're not valuable enough. We're not good enough. If we try to be ourselves, we're going to get hurt again like we did one time before. And that's all the inner game again. The inner game of not giving ourselves permission to be the valuable product or person that we really truly are. So if you really truly are valuable, but you don't see yourself as valuable, that's on you, right? Like every single one of us actually has self-esteem, but most of us don't see the level of self-esteem that we have. We all have a high level of value, but most of us don't see the value that we have. But just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So our authenticity fears and problems are more about our relationship to ourself than the actual value that somebody has. But most of us think in terms of these, concrete circumstances, like, nobody wants what I have, or I just can't succeed. That's all crap. There's not a single person that can't succeed in this business if they're willing to do what's required to succeed in the business. It's as simple as that. So let me give you some strategies now. I know I've been kind of teasing this for a long time. That wasn't my full intention. It was just I got caught up in other thoughts. So there are 3 steps to building a successful business in the coaching industry. I think I've alluded to pretty much all of them. Step number 1 is to get valuable. That's the inner work that I've been talking a lot about. Find your value. Step number 2 is to get visible. And step number 3 is to get valued. And the way you get valued is by people hiring you or people buying your products, right? So what most people are trying to do is they're trying to learn the ways to get visible and valued. In other words, they're trying to learn the ways to get fans and followers and email subscribers so that they'll buy stuff without ever doing the first thing. And frankly, I think it's disrespectful to try to sell something to people if you don't give a damn enough to find out what's actually going to be valuable for them to change their life. That's just my own belief. And I know that doesn't, apply to everybody. I get it. But in the kind of coaching that I know a lot of people need, you have to become valuable. You have to do the work yourself. Don't try to rush through it. Now, this doesn't have to take a long time, but it has to be done. So if it's not done, then you can't just rush into steps 2 and 3 without doing step 1 because you don't have a valuable product. If you don't have a valuable product, everything else is pointless. So to find the value in yourself, you've got to look into the lessons that you've learned, really. And don't do it from your intellect. Just do it from noticing what you've been through, right? Most people go intellectually, what do I have to teach? I don't know. This is what I'm trying to learn, and this is what I'm excited about, or this is what I think people might want from me, or this is what it's all passive, weak. Like there's no energy because it's not come from the roots. But each and every one of you have value from your past of things that you've been through and things that you can teach people. You're probably taking all that for granted because you don't see the value in it if it comes easy to you. But most people's highest value actually flies under their own radar because they dismiss it. But you do have a lot of value. And when you identify what it is that you've experienced in your life that you can really help people with, then what comes from that is what somebody mentioned earlier in the broadcast is your message. What is it that you're going to help people achieve? You got to help people better their life in some way. You can help them in relationships, or you can help them in business, or you can help them in physical health, nutrition, whatever. But your value is going to come from your past experiences. Your biggest value, at least, is going to come from your past experiences. And then you message that. And it's actually a lot easier for us to see our message than figure out our message. A lot of people really struggle with figuring out their message because it's an intellectual exercise based on the future instead of noticing what their value is based on past. And that message needs to be consumable. It needs to be attractive in some way. Otherwise, people won't buy it. They won't buy the jar of jelly that cures cancer because for whatever reason, the messaging isn't compelling enough. So yeah, I appreciate that, Lance. I think most people need a messaging workshop, but they need to do it a different way. It can't be an intellectual exercise. I actually have a live event coming up this weekend. Is one of the things that we're going to do is identify what our message is, but we're going to do it from the inside out and not intellectually fill in the blanks. I help people blank who need blank, who do blank, and this is who I am, like the elevator pitch. Now, there's nothing wrong with having an elevator pitch if it is evolved from what I'm talking about. If you take the value that you really have and the commitments that you have, and then you evolve it, and that message keeps getting clearer and clearer and clearer until you get like a pinpoint message, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with having those pinpoint messages. It just depends on where they're coming from. Are they coming from intellect, from top down, or are they coming from the roots? And then they evolve into the single message, right? So once you understand your value, then it's really actually easy for most people to see who needs that. Because it's usually going to be an earlier version of you. You were a certain way. You learned lessons. Now you can help people who were in that spot that needed the lessons that you learned because you used to be there. It's that simple. So the more that you teach from your experience, the more certainty you're going to have. I just did a whole video on this a few days ago, actually, how to find my ideal client. So I'm not going to go through all of that, but you can go to my YouTube channel and find the video that is how do I find my ideal client. I did a whole exercise with the llama's eye and all that. So I'm not going to redo that here. But it's actually not that difficult to identify the person that is searching for the valuable product that you now are if you go from that perspective. And then, man, I'm telling you, it's actually not that difficult. I'm excited about this weekend because we're going to have a bunch of people here in the office and we're going to have a bunch of people online. And I really believe that they're going to experience something that they've never experienced before. And because of that, they're going to have a fire lit inside of them that they've never had lit before. And then they'll get in motion and do a lot of the things they haven't been doing. Even though they know what to do, they haven't been doing it. So that's what happens when we go inside out. And I call that person your seeker. They're the ones that are seeking the knowledge that you have. They're already seeking the knowledge that you have. Now, from a messaging standpoint, we got to make sure that we don't try to attract them with the knowledge that we now have. We have to attract them with the ignorance that they have. They're asking certain questions, and the question they're asking is probably not what we want to teach them, because we are looking at it from the opposite side now. We're looking at it after the breakthrough or after the solution. But when you were in front of the solution, where you were in that place of ignorance, not knowing what you were going to do, you weren't asking those questions. You were asking the ignorant questions of how do I get over fear, or how do I change my my kid or change my husband or wife or whatever. And so when we message back to people and we're using our current perspective, that's actually not very marketable. We can have a meaningful message, but it's not marketable because it doesn't match what people are looking for. So we have to be able to look, we have to be able to match what they're looking for and then give them what they need once we have them in the grasp. And so those two levels of clarity, those two pieces of clarity, who you are, what's your valuable product, and who's your seeker, are critical. And that's how you get valuable. You are now valuable to this person. And once you know that you're valuable to that person, you know what you're going to do for them. Now we can get into this to the second phase. Now in the coaching world, one of the things that's really important for almost everybody to be valuable is to have certainty in the methodology, have a certification that gives you like a framework of what to do with clients. Because one of the biggest questions a lot of people have is, what am I going to do with my clients? Even if somebody hires me, I don't know what to do with them. Well, you have to have a framework where you do know what to do with them. And if you don't know what to do with them, it's going to be really hard to get them to hire you because you don't even know what you're going to do with them. So that kind of framework builds certainty, and your experience coaching people builds certainty such that you become a lot more magnetic and attractive and a lot more bold, and people want to follow you and they want to hire you. And if you don't have that certainty, then it doesn't matter how good you get at all these other things. At best, you could just talk people into one-time clients, but you're never going to get repeat clients. You're not going to get referrals because you've got to give people a really good experience. And that level of confidence is critical. So that's the first phase, get valuable. The second phase now is to get visible. Most people are wanting to be visible while they are deathly afraid of visibility. For all of you that resonated with what I was saying earlier about getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready to get ready because you're not good enough, because you don't know what you're going to do for people, because you don't know if you're going to succeed, because you don't know what they're going to say about you, because you don't know what your parents are going to say about you, because you don't know all this stuff. The last thing you want is a spotlight. If you have all of these fears and uncertainties going on, the last thing you want is to be put on stage in front of a bunch of people. Yet that's what a lot of people think is the answer. Let me just learn these processes when they don't have the guts to be visible. You don't have the body for it. Now, doing this internal work, doing the roots and all the things that I'm talking about is one of the ways to get the body for it. And if right now you're asking how that's going to look, you cannot comprehend it with your intellect. You can't. So a lot of people are like, all right, I'm going to do that work as soon as I understand it. You can't understand doing the work that this source right here doesn't have the capacity to comprehend. But again, that's most people are committed to their intellect. So unless their intellect says it's okay, meaning that the intellect understands them and it gives them approval, they won't do it. And I've just told you the intellect is where the problem is. The intellect is not where the solution is. The intellect is the problem. The intellect cannot comprehend what has to be done. It can't comprehend what is available outside of its capacity to see. So if I was able to take each and every one of you that have these knots inside, whatever the knots are, perfectionism, procrastination, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of success, that's a whole nother thing, fear of success. I just did a 3-hour session on fear of success last week. Almost nobody gives it any kind of attention whatsoever, especially women. That's another rant. When you have all these resistances in your body, if I could take you and get you outside of the container that you're currently in with all those sabotaging patterns and all the resistance, if I could take you out of there and then put you back here, you would understand it at a neurological level such that as soon as you hit the ground here, you would immediately start running over there because now you get it. Now you understand what's at stake. It's like if you have $1 million and you've lived as a millionaire for a long time and you've identified this identity as a millionaire and then all your money got taken from you, you would very quickly build it back up. Or if you have an identity as a broke person and somebody gives you $1 million, you will very quickly lower it down to match your identity, to match your body. So one of the things that is happening is that people aren't committing because they don't intellectually understand what the outcome is, but you can't intellectually understand the outcome. But if it's kind of like if you're in a swimming pool, I'm sure most of you have had an experience where there's like a swimming pool and then next to the pool there's a jacuzzi. If you're in the swimming pool and you go into the jacuzzi, and let's say the day is hot and you don't want to be in the hot jacuzzi, you go into the jacuzzi, but you know what the pool is like. And so as soon as you jump in there and that's not uncomfortable, you get back out and run into the pool, or vice versa. If it's cold, it might be the other way, right? You're in the jacuzzi, you go into the pool. As soon as you're in the pool, you remember what the jacuzzi is like and you want to go back to the jacuzzi immediately because you have that neurological experience. We can't be drawn toward an intellectual experience. We can only be drawn toward a neurological experience. That's why when I got that neurological shift in my life, I was drawn toward other people experiencing that. Because the neurological power is infinitely higher than the intellectual power. So the more that you are committed to your intellect, the less success you're going to get, the less fulfillment you're going to get, the less power you're going to get. So getting visible. Let me just speak to the third thing, then I'm going to go back and actually give you some strategies. The third thing is getting valued. Getting valued is when people feel that value that you have, they see you, and then they buy you. They hire you as a coach, or they buy your products or whatever. That's getting valued. The way that people will value you enough in order to pay for you is that they have to trust you. They have to know you. They have to believe that you know them. There has to be an energetic rapport that cannot happen unless you know yourself and you know your message and you know the message so much that it makes them feel like you're really talking directly to them, like you might be in their head. You can't do that from this intellectual space. You just can't. So when you can drop into that level of energetic rapport with people, now it's actually not that difficult. Now it's just you giving other people an experience that is unlike where they're getting elsewhere, and they want more of it. And then you offer them a way to buy more of it, and they do. That's really what it is. So let me go back and let me give you a few strategies. If I can't give you the strategies of doing the individual work here because we're in a group forum here, so we can't. But I can give you some strategies for the visibility piece. Let's say you're clear on your message. Let's say you're clear on, by the way, I want to do this too. For those of you that want some support, I'm going to put another link in here. And this one will take you to a calendar, business model makeover. It'll take you to a calendar where you can get in touch with one of my coaches, and she'll help you identify what it is that you need for your business, whether it's this internal work and what it is, or the visibility work and what that is, etc. So for those of you that are interested in more of a personalized approach, then book a call and we'll give that to you. So let's say that you have your message. Let's say that you have the outcome and you've got the body for it. Now you just got to get visible. So I would send an email to everybody that you know, tell them what you're up to, see if they have any referrals for you, see if if there's a space for you. Don't email a bunch of people and ask them to hire you as a coach or ask them for referrals of people that want coaching. Nobody wants coaching. They want an outcome. So understand what the outcome is that they're looking for and then offer to help them. And that could be that you email friends of yours that you know have like a real estate office or an insurance team or something like that, and you offer to go help their team. The first gig that I ever did was a training in a woman's house. She had an insurance team, and she asked me what I would charge to speak. And it was because I met her through a networking event, which most people don't want to do. And I told her I was pretty expensive. And she said, well, what's your cost? And I said, $10 per person. And at that time, that was way outside of my comfort zone because I never charged anything in this realm. So $10 a person was, I might as well have been telling her $1 million. Now, of course, she said yes. I got 5 people on the team and she paid me $50. And I went to her house and I did a training. And I don't know what I said now. I don't remember. I'm positive it was awful. And it helped them. Like if you're in the world of personal development, anything that you know is better than what most people know. It's more than what most people know. You're more valuable than what most people are exposed to because most people don't know anything about personal development. So instead of you comparing yourself to Tony Robbins or comparing yourself to somebody else, compare yourself to the person that you're trying to help. As long as you're like a half a step ahead of the person you're trying to help, then you have permission to help them. So send emails out to people and offer them support with something that you know they want help with after you've done the work that I've talked about getting valuable. Now, don't expect a whole lot out of this, but do it anyway. The value in this, in writing the emails, sometimes is more important than anybody responding back to you. There's value in writing those emails. There's value in coming up with the messaging. There's value in you actually reaching out and crossing a boundary inside for you if that's an issue for you. There's value in the process. Even if the process doesn't produce anything, there's value in the process in what you learn and what you break through. So I would send an email to everybody. And most of the time, if I ask new coaches if they've sent a kind of email out, an email of that kind out, of course, they'll say no. I'll go, do people even know you're coaching? No. Or the ones that do, they've told the safe ones that won't judge them. But that's withhold, right? If you're afraid to tell people, then how committed can you be and how attractive will you be if you don't have the guts to tell people what you're doing? And so this process could be one of the things that gets you beyond that particular line, that particular resistance. So tell them what you're doing and ask if they have ideas for you. It's going to depend on who it is that you're talking to and what network of people they have or what they do in their life. And who knows? Some of them might go, you know what? I was just talking to a friend of mine just the other day and she's really struggling in her marriage. And it might be really good to get her on the phone. Perfect. So I would do that. And then what I suggest all new coaches do is search for speaking gigs. Again, for the process. There are all kinds of opportunities all around for you to speak to people. There are all kinds of networking groups that look for speakers. There are all kinds of local organizations, the Kiwanis Club and Rotary Clubs and Boys and Girls Clubs and PTAs and schools. One of the very first things I did in the beginning is I sent a piece of paper. I typed up a letter on a piece of paper. I sent 18 of them to all the local high schools. And I said, I'll do a free speech. It's towards the end of the year. I got a message that I think kids that they need to hear, and I'll do a free talk to anybody. Only one responded back. They said, yeah, come on out, next Friday or whenever the date was. It was one of the most traumatizing experiences I've ever had as a speaker. I'll go ahead and tell you the story. I was going to say I'll tell you the story later, but I'll go ahead and tell you the story. I had braces on my teeth at the time. I had all this self-doubt and all the things we've been talking about. I didn't have the body to do this at all, but I at least had enough ignorance on fire to take action anyway. And so I show up at this high school, about 600 kids in the bleachers staring at me. And on a Friday afternoon, they want to go. And I am in my head so hard, just telling myself that I'd rather be anywhere else. And I remember this thought for whatever reason. I remember thinking pretty much all of these kids would rather see this ceiling collapse on top of me and kill me dead right here than hear anything that's going to come out of my face. And that's usually not very good self-talk right before you start giving a motivational speech. But that's what I was saying to myself. So I was beating myself up so hard saying, you're an idiot. You're a 30-year-old man with braces. And these kids all just are going to tell you to go, eat shit and die. But to my credit, I kept talking. And I was pretending that all those kids were telling me that, but I kept talking. And as I was talking, I saw one girl who was paying attention. And then I locked on to this one girl. And it was just her and I. And there were all these other people that weren't paying attention, but it didn't matter. It was just her and I. And then I started to look over here and I saw another guy who was paying attention. So then I was talking to these two people. And I gave myself the experience that these people were really into what I was talking about. And then over the course of about a 45-minute talk, I found 6 people in this audience, 6 out of a room full of 600 students. I found 6 of them that gave a damn. I found 6 of them that were actually paying attention. And I just spoke to those 6. And afterwards, I gave myself the experience that I just changed everyone's life. And those people came up to me, those 6 students, some of them came up to me and said, that was amazing. I never thought of it that way. And oh my goodness, now I'm going to think about drinking differently. And one girl said that was so life-changing. In a room full of 594 people that I think couldn't care less about whether I made it out of the gym or not, I gave myself the experience of changing people's lives. And they, because of that, had the experience of some kind of life-changing shift, according to them. And I walked away feeling pretty good about myself. And that gave me a lesson that then built into another lesson, that built into another lesson, that built into another lesson, that put me on the stage in 2013. And I won North America's Next Greatest Speaker contest against thousands of other entries. But that seed started way back then. And if I didn't have the guts to take the action to get myself in a scary situation so that my body can shift and I can learn a lesson that I didn't even know I needed to learn at the time, it wouldn't have built into what it has built into. And since then, I've spoken in Greece, and I've spoken in Colombia, and I've spoken in Costa Rica, and I've spoken all over Canada. I've spoken all over the United States, and I've spoken in India. I was in India for 2.5 weeks on a tour just for me. I was the only thing that people were coming to see for 2.5 weeks. All of that was put in motion in that auditorium right up the road here. Most people don't have the guts to do this stuff because their desire to stay safe overpowers their desire to serve. So you've got to look out around you and see who needs this message, not how can I protect myself? That's an egotistical perspective that will never serve you. Who needs this message? Not how valuable am I? How valuable is the lesson that I've learned that somebody else needs? You've got to think from a service perspective to overcome your egotistical fears. So get out there. Look for speaking gigs. Get out there and go to networking groups, just like I told you Christine did 3 months ago. And what she's built up in a 3-month period of time is way more powerful than most people will do online in years at the beginning of their business. Years. I've been with people that 13 years later, I was certified with people 13 years ago that still don't have a business. They want one. 13 years later, they still don't have one. So get out there and share your value. Go to networking groups. See who can speak. Look for meetup groups. Just get out there and you've got to give your message oxygen. It can't evolve inside your head. It cannot evolve inside your mouth. It can only evolve outside of your mouth. It needs oxygen. It needs ears to go into in order to get feedback. It needs all of the things that most people are afraid of. But if you're more committed to the service and you're more committed to getting your message out there and getting it in the ethers, then it can evolve. And here's what I promise you. See, a lot of people are waiting until they find the message, until they find the right message before they get in motion. I'll tell you right now, your right message is probably 17 iterations away. And if you're waiting for it to be perfect before you take the first step, and it's not going to get really valuable until step 17, you can't win. So get yourself in motion, collect feedback, keep going, lean in, do the work you got to do on yourself, continue to give a damn, continue to be committed to the work, to the service, to yourself, and keep going. That's how your message gets clarified, and that's how you start pulling people in. Yes, Frank says, I think your approach of speaking to a room full of people that don't know you can garner more paying clients than contacting a bunch of people who know you and already see you in a certain light. Totally agree. That's one of the reasons why I said don't expect a whole lot out of those emails to everybody. It's more of the practice of it than the effectiveness of it. The value is more in doing it than what's going to come back. But you're absolutely right. A lot of people are like, man, I used to drink beers with you on that dirty old couch in college, and now you want to help fix my life? No way. Like, I know too much about you. And family members, it's very difficult for them to see you in a different light. So they're usually not going to see the value. You don't have the credibility as a coach for the people that know you. That's one of the reasons why you ask for referrals, because they might know some people who know some people that don't have those same perspectives of you. And it could produce some fruit, but that's more about the process than what it produces. But when you get out in front of people and you start collecting names and you start having conversations and they start telling you about other opportunities where you can go speak and you start getting paid to speak like Christine has. I'm jealous of Christine. She's been paid. So in 3 months, Christine says she's been paid 3 times. I've been paid, I think, 4 times in 13 years. Actually getting paid to go out and speak. Now, I've done a lot of speaking and I've sold products. That's a different kind of model, speak to sell, basically, where you speak for free and you sell products and you make your money off the sales. But I don't, I mean, I really haven't been paid to speak a whole lot. So I'm actually, so Christine's way ahead of my pace. So anyway, get out there and network and get creative. Just constantly ask yourself, who needs this message? I literally, 13 years ago, I don't even know if they have these anymore, but I pulled out the phone book and I went page by page and I looked for organizations and I looked for anything that I could see. And I just kept thinking. Okay, maybe and I called a ton of people. Hey, do you hire speakers? Do you bring speakers in to talk to your group? What is it that your group is focusing on? And sometimes they would say no, and sometimes they would say yes. But it got me out. It got me in motion. And I never would have been drawn to what I ultimately was drawn to without doing a lot of these steps. But again, most people are demanding that they have clarity on step 17, which cannot be clarified until step 16, but they're demanding they have clarity before they take step 1. You just can't do it. So those are some simple ideas to get experience. And the value in your experience is more important than the value of a paying client if you go out and just get somebody to hire you right away without doing a lot of this work. Now, social media is a big thing nowadays, obviously. So a lot of people are teaching it, a lot of people are learning it, a lot of people are using it. If you want to use it, that's fine. But you got to understand something. Social media it's like the Wild West. It is rough. There are literally billions of people on social media. And so what a lot of people do is They think, okay, I don't have the courage or the confidence yet to actually sell a high-end coaching program, so I'm going to dabble over here. To the intellect, that makes sense. To the intellect, it makes sense to play over here, play blocks over here while you're building the skills, because the intellect is all about skills and intellectual crap. So just dabble over here, put up maybe a web page and do some social media posting, and these people are social media posting, and just do all this kind of stuff. Just kind of ease into it. Let's take the stairs down into the water. The quickest way to success is jump in the deep end, right? But the intellect will convince us that this is the way to go. So most people think that's the easiest way to do it. Most people think that's the right way to do it. It's the safest way to do it. It's the most convenient way to do it. And so that's what a lot of people are doing. And then they're getting killed in social media. They're just getting killed. Internally, externally, in every single way. And they're not having a lot of success. It's because they're doing the thing that intellectually seems like the right thing to do, but it's actually the wrong thing to do, in my experience. Social media is not a place to learn your business. Social media is a place to scale a business that you already know. It's to scale something that's already successful. You already have a valuable product. You've already sold the valuable product. You know the people that want the product. Now we're going to use social media to bring those two together in a more scalable way. You should not be on social media trying to figure out your message, or on social media trying to get paying clients if you don't have the certainty of your body. It's just a nightmare. That's what most people experience. It's a nightmare. So it's actually the opposite thing to do. And here's what I want you to remember. Whatever's easier for you to do, or let me put it a different way. Whatever's easy for you to do is easier for them to ignore. If it's easy for you to send out an email, it's easier for them to never open it. If it's easy for you to put up a post in social media rather than get up in front of a group of people, it's easier for everybody else to ignore your post. Whatever's easy for you to do is easier for them to ignore. But if you stand up in front of a group of 20 people, they can't ignore you. You're in front of them. So it seems like the right thing to do, but more often than not, it's actually the wrong thing to do. If you don't have the body, you don't know what the valuable message is and the valuable product, and you don't have customers, you shouldn't be doing that. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It can work. There are some systems out there that work for certain people, but for most people, they don't work. You can't just take a system that works for somebody else and apply it to yourself if you don't know your product and you don't know the message. Finally, last thing I want to talk about in this episode is getting valued. So I talked about earlier how you can get people on the line and offer free consultations. I think that's the best way to sell coaching. I think it's the best way to get clients. It's also the best way to do market research for you. Find out what people want. Find out how they respond to certain things. Just get the body for these conversations. So my advice to pretty much everybody, unless there's a compelling reason to do it another way, or maybe they're not starting out and they've already got paying clients, and so they might not follow the strategy. But my advice to pretty much everybody is get on the phone. Excuse me. Get on the phone with as many people as possible for free. We have a try before you buy mentality in our society now too. And if they don't know a lot about life coaching or business coaching or whatever kind of coaching you're going to offer them, it's going to be very difficult to sell it to them without some kind of an experience. So get on the phone with them and give them an experience as best you possibly can. And the more valuable their experience is, the more likely it is that they're going to want to continue the experience. So I have a free consultation guide. It's a guide for free consultations that I actually want to read to you. And then I want to tell you about this program. I've been kind of talking a little bit about it, this foundations program. For those of you that have gotten on since I had it typed in, I just put the link in there. It's the foundations of marketing for coaches. We start this weekend. So I have a step-by-step guide for how to conduct these coaching consultations. And I'll just read it to you. This is the way I do it. We've created a template, and it never goes according to the template because we're dealing with a human on the other line. So because we care more about the human than we do about our template, it always shifts in some way. But this is a template for you to just kind of understand the process. And maybe if you hear what the process is like, then it'll be easier for you to do the process. And you can all do a private coaching consultation with us too, if you want to experience the process. So for me, there are 9 components. The first component is just a quick connection. Hey, what's up? How are you doing? Tell me a little bit about how your day was and what have you. Just to break the ice, not spend a whole lot of time here, but just where do you live? Simple things like that. You want to calm down any fears that they might have too. So simple ice-breaking, safe questions are the way to do that. Second thing is to establish an outcome. What is it that they want for this call? And you just say, what is it you'd like to get out of today's phone call? And then they'll tell you whatever they tell you. Sometimes people have very specific outcomes, and sometimes people are like, I don't have any idea. And then great, at least now you know where they're coming from, right? And then what I like to do is I like to get them talking a little bit. This is assuming I don't know this person, right? This is a free consultation. I get them talking a little bit, and I'll usually say, just give me like a 2-minute what's up session. What's up? What's going on in your life? Tell me a little bit. And I want it to be short. That's why I call it a 2-minute session. Sometimes people will go on and on and on, and we have to stop them in order to keep the time on the call. But I like to hear people talk about whatever's up in their world. And it gives us a lot of clues as to what's going on emotionally. You can hear the cracks in their voice when they talk about certain things. You can hear the way they language certain things. And so if you have a trained ear to listen to the way people talk, you can find out what it is that is really going on with them. And then step number 4 is to give my intention of the call. And so on a free consultation, I might say something like, I want to give you a lot of value. I want to share whatever advice, exercises I have for you. And then I also want to see if more coaching is a good fit for us. Is that okay? So I let them know in the beginning that if this seems to be a good fit, then we'll talk about continuing coaching, which is basically, I'll offer them some kind of a package. And then 100 times out of 100, they'll say yes to that. And then the next piece is where I start to dig a little bit. Based on what they told me, I start to dig and try to figure out where their leverage is. I try to see where their pain points are, what's not working in their life, what is it they want to change. And it's all going to be based on what they've already said. So I might say, tell me a little bit more about your relationship. Or you mentioned something that I want to dive into a little bit more. Tell me about that experience that you mentioned in your childhood. Or tell me about that business that you just joined. It's not working for you, right? So you want to get some kind of leverage. And the leverage is usually found in what's not working for people. You just want to get them talking. Step number 6 is to try to tap into their desire to change. So it could be, what is it that you really want to accomplish if you continue on that in that business? Or what is it that you want out of your relationship? Or what is it that that keeps you up at night? What is it that you want more than anything at all? You want to tap into their desire, because when you ask people questions about their desires, you're now engaging their heart. The heart is what generates desire. The head just generates intellect. And then number 7, we want to identify what's standing in between those two things, right? We talked about what's not working, and then we talked about what they want. Now, what are the obstacles? So you just say, what do you think it is that's standing in your way? Or if we can wave a magic wand and get rid of one thing, what is the one thing you want to get rid of? And they might say my fear or my procrastination, or I need to lose weight, or whatever it is that they think their perceived obstacle is. And this is a moment when you have certainty around your coaching skills, that a lot of times you'll notice what they think the answer is not the actual answer. They think the answer is to be more confident, and you know the answer is to heal a relationship, let's say. And when you can show people that you know what it is they need, then they see your value as their guide, as their facilitator, as their coach, as their mentor in this moment. You're leading them. They see the value in you leading them, and they see that you actually have knowledge that they don't have. And if they just keep beating their head up against this one particular wall, they're not going to get anywhere except a bloody forehead, right? And so this is a moment where you can really establish your leadership and your awareness to help them in the situation. So that might sound like, let's say the client says they want more confidence. And I might say, well, actually, that's a part of it. And what I know to be true from talking to so many women is that confidence is actually a function of self-esteem. And so the reason that you're not making phone calls, the reason that you're not being more committed to your work is more likely a function of your relationship with yourself when things go well or don't go well than it is about your abilities. How does that land for you? And I can promise you, especially if I've picked up on it, if I say that to a woman, 100% of the time, they're going to go, yeah, that really lands. Okay, cool. So then that's the work that we actually need to do in order to get you to that point of what it is that you want, right? And so now there's been some kind of an established sort of path of what we need to work on. And sometimes they do know what they need to work on, and so you don't always give them a different answer. But when you do give them a different answer, you're going to illuminate something for them, and that can be really powerful in a persuasive situation. And then number 8 is something that can be powerful if it feels right to you. I don't do this all the time, but I call it reversing the sale, and that's where you ask the person, why is it that they chose you? You know, why is it that you picked me to talk about? There's all kinds of other coaches that you know. Was there something that I said one time? Was there something that really landed with you? I just want to know why you chose me. And then they'll tell me whatever the reason is. And then that helps me understand what the perspective is, but it also helps me understand what it is that they're wanting from this relationship on top of everything that we've just established. And that can be very helpful for me to know. And it could also be helpful for them to hear themselves say why it is that they want you as the coach. Or at that point, maybe they don't. Maybe, you know, there's not a good fit here or whatever, but it's a great check-in. And then number 9 is when you offer whatever it is that you have to offer. And the best way to do it is put it in terms of what you've been talking about. So if you've been talking about a relationship, let's say, you know, they have a rocky marriage, you can say, I have a coaching program that can absolutely help you shift the areas in your marriage so that you can be more successful in the business that you really want to be successful in. And if it's a good fit and that's something that we can do together, how does that sound to you? Now, if they just told you what's not working in their life and you talked about it a little bit, and you did some work with them a little bit, maybe gave them some advice or some tips or some kind of neurological experience, and then you ask them if they're interested in continuing that experience, I mean, almost all the time they're going to say yes, because you're talking about their life. But if you try to sell your program before getting all this information from these people, and then you just try to convince them that they need your program, it's going to be a much more difficult sale. But it's a lot easier to get to know the person and then offer something that can map onto the things you've been talking about. And then it's way easier for them to go, yeah, I want that. Because they just spent however long they just spent telling you about, the conflicts in their life. So that's the best way, in my experience, to offer coaching programs. And it's a very simple process. It doesn't involve, slick salesy kind of tactics. And it's really you just having the ability to flow with whatever it is that they say. And so that removes a lot of the fears that your intellect has about saying the right thing, because you're not even the one leading the conversation. I mean, you kind of are leading the conversation, but it's really about managing their flow. And there's an ease about that kind of a conversation. It doesn't feel salesy. It doesn't feel confrontational. It doesn't feel like there's a winner or a loser. And it's a pretty easy invitation at the end. So the more invitations that you make off of those kinds of phone calls, the more clients you're going to get. Now, you might not get, obviously, a client every time you have one of those calls, but I have several of our clients that said the very first interview that they did, they got hired. Because, a lot of times when people start talking about these issues they want to change in their life, they need help and they want help. And a lot of times I'll go, can I hire you? Can you help me get this? Yeah, sure. A lot of times they will ask you for the hire, for the sale. So Michelle just put in, it's a great outline. It's not a script. That's really important. It's an outline to follow. It's more about the concepts than it is to follow the script word for word, for sure. So the more of those conversations you get into, the more likely it is that you will have paying coaching clients. And you don't need a website for somebody to go, can you help me? And you say yes, and then they pay you. Now, I think when you're early in your business, you should get paid anything you can to become a professional coach. I don't believe in holding out for $100 an hour, $200 an hour, $1,000 per package. I just don't believe in that, because most people have a real struggle with placing a value on themselves. So if you ask them what's the value of their coaching package, they won't have a very good answer usually. And then their ego will say, well, I deserve this, or this is what other people are charging. But if you don't have the body to say that number in this consultation, this conversation, then you're not going to get anybody to say yes, because you don't even like it. You haven't even bought yourself. If you haven't bought yourself, then why would anybody else buy you? So I would rather you say whatever number you can get out without choking or without shrinking and apologizing for it, and then get a paying client. And honestly, in the very beginning, I don't even care if it's like $20. Get paid. Because if you were to accept a $20 client, you're now paid. You now can get into motion with this client. You can give them an experience, and you will now see the value of your coaching. And the next time you have a consultation, you will likely raise your own prices because of the experience that you have inside of the paid relationship. And if you suck, they only paid $20. Oh, well. My first client, my first one-on-one coaching client, was $1,000 sale for 6 months. And I think it was like an hour-long coaching session every single week for 6 months. For $1,000. And I didn't know what I was going to do. If anybody said yes, I didn't want anybody to say yes. I wanted them to buy the other product that I was trying to sell, $250 one. Somebody said yes. And then I had to deliver it, right? I actually sold the program before. I truthfully didn't want to be a coach. At least in that moment, I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to just speak. But I realized that giving people a coaching experience was a lot more valuable than just giving them an experience on stage. And so I didn't really want to be a coach. But I knew that if somebody hired me, I didn't know what I was going to do with them. So this one woman hired me as a coach, and I hadn't gotten certified yet as a coach. And so I told her, you can hire me, but I can't start coaching until like August. And this was, I think, in April. So there was like 4 or 5 months away. And she might have thought that I was so booked full that that there was no room until August. I didn't say that. If she thought that, then oh well. But in reality, I was too scared to coach her until I went and got certified. And then once I learned what I learned about coaching, and I was certified for 2 straight weeks, actually, 2 straight weeks, 14 days in a row. And then I attended another 7-day event on top of that, which was a speaker training. How do I use these tools from a speaking standpoint? But coaching, just one-on-one transformation, changing people's lives, I spent 14 straight days in that water. And a lot of people, will take a program online and then not understand why they don't have this magnetic energy. It's because you're not even in the pool. Not that online programs can't be powerful. I have one. I think it's good. BCC, check it out. Breakthrough Coaching Certification. It's an introduction to all this neurological stuff. I can be very powerful, but you gotta deserve it. What I mean by that is you got to put the work in to where you become valuable by putting the work in, not by just how quickly can you get a certification that you can put on your wall. Actually be a good coach, right? Like, would you rather know how to drive, or would you rather have a fake driver's license that you can fool people with? So knowing how to drive in a coaching context is fantastically magnetic. Yeah, Lance, I think everybody should get certified, not because the certification, I don't even know where my certifications are. I've never showed my certification to anybody. There's a chance I don't even have them anymore. So I probably don't have the actual certification. I've got my diplomas from college, but it's not the piece of paper. It's not the fact that you're certified and whatever you put after your name. It's the experience that you get going through the program that then gives you the magnetic energy to attract people, and the certainty of actually being able to change people's lives. So I think everybody should be certified. I will give another link if any of you want to check it out. My online program is called Breakthrough Coaching Certification. It's BCC for short. So I just put that link in there if any of you want to check it out. So that's how I became a coach. That's how I got certainty as a coach. I've been doing the work ever since. I've gone to over 350 days of live seminars. And I have the body for it now. And most people don't. I mean, it's just that simple. They don't increase their value enough. Or the value that they're trying to increase is more of an intellectual thing. So before we end here, I like what Frank says, if you can't swallow your price, no one else will. And that whole philosophy is really about foundation as well. Like, learn how to be a paid coach and then build from there. So anyway, I want to tell you about this program that I've got starting this weekend. It's called The Foundations of Marketing for Coaches. It's strictly for people in some form of coaching. It ends up being a year-long program. There's 6 months of concentrated lessons, and then there's 6 additional months of support. In the 6 months of concentrated lessons, there's a lot of support in there as well. We're going to be on the line just about every day, not every day, every week, just about every week. There's a support group on Facebook, and you're going to get into pods. And I've designed the program according to what I know to be most beneficial for human learning and online learning, and then coaching specifically. So it's a group program. We kick off this weekend coming up, November 30th and December 1st is a live event here in our office. There'll be 9 or 10 people live with us here, but then there'll be more people online. So anybody can patch in virtually online and experience, or you can listen to the replays afterwards. That's the kickoff of the program. And then after doing that foundational work at the live event, then we're going to be together in these in these sessions. And what we're going to go through is what I think are obviously the foundational elements of building a business. And what my intention is for all of you that decide to do this is for you to way more questions created than answered. That's actually good. That means you're thinking. And when we get into, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the reasons that a lot of people don't want to look at themselves is because when we do the actual right work, we have to build a path. And the intellect says, I'd rather just be given a path than built a path. And so since we want the answers to just be given to us, we don't like having to ask ourselves questions. We tend to not do the work that's actually required. And then at some point in time, that's going to end poorly. And somebody will either quit or they'll figure out they actually need to do the work that they could have done in the beginning and made it go a lot different. So it feels messy when we do the work that's actually required. What I know to be true is that it's easier. And even if whether it's easier or not, it's what has to happen. It's just that simple. So you can try to change the rules of the game, or you can play by the rules of the game, and the rules won't change. So if you try to change them and try to shortcut and try to, take the easy way out because your intellect has convinced you that that's the way to go, then it's going to be a struggle. I promise you that. So this program is about doing the foundational work for each and every one of us individually, and then building a business from that point. And over the course of a whole year, I'll be going over so many different topics. The inner game is something that we will constantly be drawing back to. And because at every step of the way, there's an inner game consideration, right? There's a fear. If I ask you to write something, some article about your life, or if I ask you to do a video, or if I ask you to reach out for people to interview podcasts or whatever, if you've got a block about that activity, then we need to handle that block. You can't just remove all of your inner obstacles and then go forward and build this business. You're going to hit inner obstacles at every step of the way. So it's actually kind of comical to me and sad that people think that's the process, that we clear all the inner work, we get rid of all of our fears, and now we're good to go. And now we're just going to take off and never have to deal with any of that work again. In fact, it's the only constant that's going to be in your business is the inner work game that you've got to constantly be managing. And I've been a life coach for 13 years. I've spent my time and energy and money learning how to help people. All right, I see that the video died for somebody. If my video is still on, to me, it looks like it's still going. Time is still going. My computer's still up. But somehow you're able to still comment. Okay, cool. Thanks. So over the course of this year, we're going to constantly be taking steps and then managing the inner game, and taking steps and managing the inner game, and taking steps and managing the inner game. And just like I said, the message that's most valuable probably won't come out until, let's say, step 17. Well, the biggest obstacle then that you need to overcome is going to be between step 16 and 17. So how can you overcome that obstacle when you're not even up against it? So this is constant back and forth. And what I was saying is that I've been a life coach really focused on helping people clear their inner obstacles and stop sabotaging themselves, and then apply it to different areas of life, whether it's relationships or weight loss or business or what have you. And this is the biggest component of building a coaching business that everybody needs. And so that's, I think, one of the things that makes me unique in this space is that level of inner work certainty and frankly, capability inside of a marketing program. And usually you're just going to get one or the other. So for us to be able to handle that conversation all the way through a year is what's really, really important. And I also want to be very clear, though, that we're gonna do marketing work. We're gonna do strategy. We're gonna look at your message. We're gonna look at your branding. We're gonna talk about websites and what you should have on a website if you're gonna go that route. We're gonna talk about how to market on social media. We're gonna talk about sales. We're gonna talk about marketing in your backyard, right? Marketing locally, and what did I do in the earlier phases, and what would I suggest you do when you do get in front of these local groups, people you don't know? How do you collect names? What do you do to nurture your community? What do you do to increase your level of influence and persuasion? And what do you do to handle all the fears and all the blocks and all the limiting beliefs and all that stuff that gets kicked up the whole way? How do you put together funnels? How do you advertise? How do you do webinars? How do you do live videos? What do you do on YouTube? Like, I will get into all of these strategies just in the right order. We're not going to go top down and pretend that the strategy is what's going to make you successful. We're going to go bottom up, and some of you are going to take off in one area and some of you are going to take off in another area, because your value, your product, and your seeker requires you to do one thing, and somebody else's product and seeker requires them to do something else. So there will be the foundational components that you'll be able to use at every level of your business, regardless of where you go, because these are the foundational principles, and foundations will never go away. The fads will go away, but the foundational principles will never go away. So what it takes to be successful in a Facebook ads funnel is going to be what it takes to be successful on Instagram. It's going to be what it takes to be successful in a live event. It's going to be what it takes to be successful in the next new platform that none of us even know about, that we might all be raving about in 2019. We don't even know. You've got to be able to take your foundations and then apply them to all the different applications of it, instead of just put your energy learning the applications. So that's the overall intention of the program. My desire is that you have at least 10 paying clients out of this process. I mean, if you don't have 10 paying clients, then we're going to really look at like what's off. There's something that's off. You should be able to get at least 10 paying clients if you're doing the work and if you're going through the processes like I'm telling you. I want to teach you how to make a signature speech, how to create a signature program and a signature message. I want you to have confidence and certainty in your body. I want you to be able to manage your own inner game. I want you to be able to calm the inner fears that are going on in your mind. I want you to be able to get in front of a camera with confidence and know what to say. I want you to be able to nurture your crowd on email. I want you to know what you got to put into a blog post and what to put into audios and how to create content. I mean, here's one of the things that I don't talk enough about. A few of you went through my content challenge a few weeks ago. I'm going to make a bold statement that might sound like it's coming from ego, but it's just coming from noticing. I am a content creating machine. I literally have over 500 products, and I could produce a product every day, right? I mean, here we are 2.5 hours in, and a lot of these thoughts I've not had before. So because of the work that I've done, and I wasn't always that way, but because of the work that I've done, I've got so much content. Let me show you something real quick. Hang tight. Give me 5 seconds. So I've done so many audio products. This is one of our binders, okay? And in this binder, we've got all these sleeves. And each sleeve holds 8 CDs, 4 on the front, 4 on the back. Each one of these CDs is anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes, because CDs can only hold 80 minutes. And this is a whole binder, right? Now, there are 2 binders on that shelf over there, and we haven't put CDs in these binders for probably 3 years. So I'm just saying that, showing you this, because there are thousands of hours of content that I've done over the last decade, over the last 13 years, really. And all of that can be learned, actually. And the more that you have content to create, the more that you have to give people, and the more that you have to sell people, and the more that you have to transform people's lives, etc. So that's one of the key components here, is to teach you how to be a content creation machine. And it's not difficult. It's actually not difficult, but most people are so in their own way, thinking about things from the wrong perspective, and they shut their creativity down. But a coaching business is a creativity business. It's a creative process. That's another reason, actually, that a lot of people struggle, is because they're using their intellect to try to build a creative business. Those are different animals, completely different animals. Now, it doesn't mean that your intellect isn't helpful at times. There are a lot of components about building a business that require intellect. And there's an entrepreneurial mind that's required to build a business. And most people have employee minds. Even after they build a business, they have an employee mind. You can't build a business with an employee mindset. It's impossible. So that's another thing we'll talk a lot about in this program. But the bottom line is, I want to teach you how to create the value, create the neurological experience in yourself and the transformation, so that you can help other people. There are millions of people that need help out here in our society. I'm on a mission to get as many of them coached as possible. And we got to do it the right way, because if you continue doing it the wrong way, you know, we're in a situation now in our society and in this industry where there's so much competition at the outer edges of marketing. There's so much competition that if you do this what I'm calling the wrong way, you have zero chance. I'm talking zero chance. That doesn't mean you can't make a little bit of money. You can pull money out of people's wallets using certain tactics, but it won't be sustainable. It won't be long lasting. It won't be fulfilling. And that's a lose to me. That's a loss. So you have to build a business heading into the future that we're heading into. You have to build a business this way, especially in this industry. You absolutely have to build a business this way. In personal development. That doesn't mean you have to build a software business this way, or a real estate flipping business this way, or an infomercial business this way. But in the personal development world, where you're actually changing people's lives, you have to build a business this way. You have to build it with authenticity. You have to build it with transparency. And you have to build it with give a damn. If you don't, you can't win. So that's what I want to help pace people through over the course of an entire year. I price the program very low. You can join the program for $250 a month, or you can pay one lump sum of $2,500 for a year's worth of marketing and support. And what I promise you is that the most value will come from the support. It won't come from the information. So there will be times when I'll do laser coaching calls, let's say, and we'll be on the line with people asking questions about whatever it is that they want to learn. And I'll answer the questions one-on-one, or I'll look at websites, or do whatever I can to support people through this whole process. I've developed a big passion around helping people in the early phases of their business. Because to me, it almost feels like giving birth, helping somebody give birth to a message and a product. And then what I get excited about is not the business and the money that's going to come in from the business. What I get excited about is the people out there that are going to be helped. That's everything to me. So that's my commitment. It's going to be awesome. It comes with a 30-day guarantee like we always have. So if you don't like it, then you can get your money back. you get you get access, by the way, to all of this content. You get access to all the content that I've ever done. Some of it will help you personally, and some of it will just be a model for you if you want to look at how I create, or how I outline certain calls and whatever. So you can model it, or you can go through it and have it help you. So that in itself is worth a ton, on top of the marketing. And really, if you do this properly, I think, I can't make this promise obviously for everybody, but I think you should get probably 10 paying clients at least. And I mean, that'll easily pay for the program. And if you actually get a little bit more committed and a little more serious, I mean, I made over $300,000 in the first 18 months of our business, but the first 6 months of those 18 months was more the foundational work. And then over the next 10 to 12 months, we brought in some serious money. Once we figured out the clicking point, that I call it. And once you get the clicking point, then you can scale up big time. And so once we started scaling up, I mean, I remember my first $30,000 month, and my first $40,000 month, and my first month that I did $100,000 in sales. That wasn't cash in the bank, but that was sales in terms of order forms. And those are some really exciting times. And almost none of it was the internet. So if you are willing to do the work that's required, once you get that clicking point, what can then explode from there is insane. Most people will never reach the clicking point because they're not doing the work that's required to get to the clicking point. They're doing all the Band-Aid quick fix bullshit. So that's your choice. Cool. Thank you, Frank, for that. I appreciate it. Lance, LanceAbrams.com. Awesome. Transform me. I'm ready. Fantastic. I don't know what level of seriousness you guys are for the program itself. If you jump in the program, then I can't wait to connect with you. If you have any questions about it, then let me know. You can type something in here or send me a direct message, comment on any of my videos. I'll see it. Send me an email to Sean@coachseansmith.com. Yeah, I mean, I want to get more people helped. That's the thing. So we have this, what's kind of become like a rally cry in our company. And the origins of this is the understanding that a lot of people need our help. And we are like superheroes to some extent. It's like we're the Avengers, and wherever people are calling, we need to go help them. There are so many people out there that need support, and we need to do the work so that we can go help them. And so we have this rally cry. It's cape up and clock in, because they need our help. And when you really truly come from that place of service and come from that place of deep neurological desire to help a fellow human being, and then you scale that up and build a business around that, the impact that you can have is tremendous. Now, you can also achieve some of your ego goals. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. We all have an ego, and we all have goals around making money and traveling and doing the things that we want to do, because that's the way we want to live our lives. Those are ego goals. There's nothing wrong with those. We can absolutely achieve a lot of those as well, but only as a byproduct, in this industry at least, as a byproduct of doing it this way, in my opinion, as a byproduct of giving a damn so much, so hard, being willing to do whatever work needs to be done to get that cape on and go help some people. And, there's nothing like, hi, Claudette. Michelle just put the hashtags CTFI and CTFU. So the F, you might be able to figure out what the F stands for. Basically, it's cape up, and then there's a T and an F in the middle. And then the C and the I stand for clock in. Cape up and clock in. And, you know, Michelle's a potty mouth, so she puts the T and the F in there. I don't know where she got that. It wasn't me. Actually, it was. So when we have this level of deep, deep desire, the energy that we have is it's magnetic, it's powerful. Sometimes F words come out, and it's because we have somebody to help, man. And you know, we got to get out of our way and we got to clock in, do this work and clock in. And what I was going to say is, one of my wishes for all of you, whether you join my program or not, and you allow me to help, or you get the help from somebody else, one of my wishes for all of you is to have the experience of another human being tell you that you fundamentally changed their life. That you have the experience of somebody telling you that because of the work that you did, she no longer beats her son, which is what a woman told me in Texas one time. Or because of the work that you did, she didn't kill herself that night. Or because of the work that you did, she's happy in her marriage. We had a woman recently say that because of the work that we did at one of our live events, she said, "I love you" for the first time in 5 years to her husband. And she was looking to get out of the marriage, and she fell back in love in the marriage. And when you hear people say that their lives have changed, knowing how much pain is out there in the world, there's a level of fulfillment that I personally can't experience any other way. I can't experience it with a bunch of money in the bank, and I can't experience it with losing weight, and I can't experience it with any kind of tangible reward or accomplishment. And I don't know about all of you. I know many of you have made a similar commitment to yourself, but you know, I was almost killed when I was 13 years old, and I made a commitment to myself that since I only have one shot on this planet and I don't know when it's over, I'm going to do everything I can to live while I'm alive. I'm going to do everything I can to live a life of excellence and never settle for mediocrity, because I'd never want to look back on my life with regret and ask, what could I have become? What could I have done? What kind of impact could I have left if I would have tried harder, if I would have done more? And that fear of regretting my life has been driving me for over 30 years since. And I know many of you have a similar desire and have a similar commitment to yourself. And so I honor those of you that have committed yourself to changing people's lives. You know, I don't know what could be more noble on this planet while we're renting this human skin than to really give people a fundamental change in their being. It's everything. So when we can build a business around that, I don't know how to articulate how that feels. I don't know how to put words to that level of fulfillment and joy and significance. So with that, everyone, thank you all for being here. I know many of you were here the whole time. If you've been here the whole time, 2.5 hours, by the way, this was going to be a 30-minute session. I was sure it was going to be a 30-minute session. I've been kind of checking my phone every once in a while to see if I got texts like, hey, where are you? Dinner's ready or whatever. I was sure this is going to be a 30-minute session. And you co-created 2.5 hours. So I appreciate the co-creation, the contribution that all of you have made. And if there's anything that I can do or that our company can do to support you changing lives, then let me know. So we got people to help, man. Cape up, clock in. Let's do it. Take care, everyone. Talk to you soon. All right, so now I'm looking at some of the comments, and I can't end this stream because as soon as I end the stream, then I'm going to lose these comments. Perfect. Yeah, I look forward to hearing from you, Frank. Send me an email, Sean@coachseansmith.com, SEAN, Sean, and we'll continue the conversation, brother. I appreciate your co-creation, your energy. I don't know how you found me. I don't know how we collided, but I'm grateful for it. And I look forward to continuing that. Candace, Michelle, Coach Fox. I think I might know who that is. Awesome. Cool. All right, you guys. I appreciate you all. I don't just appreciate you all. I love you all. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care.